What's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Rise and Ride. I'm fired up to start a podcast. I've been thinking about doing this for the last few months, and here we are. I was a little skeptical about doing this. I was like, do I really want to do this? Like, what's next for me? I got a little bored of doing what I've been doing. There's only so many Instagram reels I can make, so I'm like, you know what? I can give back. I can give more doing a podcast than doing these little Insta reels. And I'm calling the podcast Rise and Ride. We rise from overcoming adversity and we ride. You know, all my boys, we ride. All my friends, we ride. And I think that we can spread so much knowledge across the space. And our first guest, Tarek Rasouli. I mean, come on. To start off the podcast with Tarek Rasouli, I'm super fired up. If you don't know who Tarek Rasouli is, he's an OG in the mountain bike space. He started Resolution, which is one of the biggest agency companies in the mountain bike space. He manages athletes such as Danny McCaskill, puts on the biggest events overseas, such as the RedBull District Ride. And back in the day, he did a lot for me. He hosted this event called the Nissan Qashqai. It was a 5-stop tour all around Europe. And it was the first time that mountain biking actually saw a lot of money. And I ended up winning a truck because of this guy. So super fired up to chat with him. And not to mention, Tarek has overcome so much adversity in life. He got paralyzed in 2002 in a mountain bike accident. So I'm curious to see how you overcome such trauma, because I lived that for a little bit. And I had a hard time overcoming that. So I'm curious to see how other people handle these tough situations. So super fired up to have Tarek Rasouli on the pod today. So that was like my spot.
Yeah.
So my sister stayed there on Friday, and I went to her room. Okay. And I was like, this is wild. The last time I walked these halls were like 6 years ago when I was here for the documentary. Yeah. And the fact that I lived like down the street from that place, it trips me out. But it's good. It brings memories. I don't mind Irwin. The rooftop's sick. It's a fun spot. And I love being on the boardwalk and seeing all the madness. There's a lot of characters out there.
I know.
Venice, man. If you're ever bored in Venice, just go walk the boardwalk and you'll see what's there.
I know.
A lot of characters.
Yeah. I've seen it a couple of times. It's pretty rad.
What brings Tarek Rasouli to LA? What's happening with you?
Well, originally I came for Richie Schlee's wedding. So I went to Laguna Beach.
Richie Schlee getting married. Who would ever thought that day was going to come? Congratulations to Richie and Crystal. I did see photos. It looked like it was a good time. A lot of mountain bike people there. I saw some old faces in there. I saw Old Spice. He was there. Yeah. Tom Erickson.
Yeah.
How was the wedding?
Honestly, it's all time. It was so good. Because, of course, like I knew about 40% of the people there, and then made some new friends, and all the people were so rad that were part of this. There were 130 people, a lot of Canadians, guys I haven't seen in like that. They're like Buddy Boy. I don't know if you ever met him. It's an old friend of Richie from Whistler, but he's originally Australian. And he actually went pretty hard already on the warm-up night. He had a bit of a trip out in front of the marine room. We went for drinks in the marine room, and he was already too loaded, and he tripped and he cut his eye.
No way.
And had 8 stitches.
No.
He had to stay overnight in the hospital.
Did he make it to the wedding?
He made it to the wedding. He had sunglasses, and he was full throttle, great form.
Wow, what a trooper. Dude, we go way back. I've known you since 2004, and
almost 20 years.
Dude, yeah, 2004. I remember the first time I met you was at Crankworks. We were at in a suite with Big D and the whole free ride crew, and I remember meeting you, and I didn't know too much about your background or anything what you did in the sport of mountain biking, because you came a few years before me, But tell me about those early days in mountain biking before I met you in 2004.
By the way, but you remember that I was judging in 2004 when you were riding.
Were you judging that year?
I was judging that
Shit,
year.
I don't remember.
I was judging from 4 till 7 back to back, like every year in Whistler.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're one of the judges. All right. Well, thank you for scoring that point for me.
Well, honestly, that wasn't too hard. You made it so easy and you impressed us so much. It was incredible because I remember so well that when you did that last run, I went actually down the hill with Bryson and somebody else, and it's like, whoa, mountain biking just changed, like SlopeStyle, free ride. This is insane. And like, it really like was so impressive because you suddenly, you started a new era, and that exactly at that event, at your first Crankworks victory win, and that flip up the box and tail whip down the box, it was absolutely insane.
Dude, thanks for the compliments. Yeah. And it trips me out because I have to go back to that day, 2004, and I just remember showing up with Cam Zink's bike, not even idea of what I'm getting myself into, dropping in and just like knowing that like, hey, I'm going to do exactly what I do on my BMX bike on this course. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal at the time until after the event, and everyone's like, holy shit, I can't believe you tailed off the drop. No one's done that. Yeah. You flip in, and I'm like, I was just so out of the loop. And it's crazy how much the sport of slopestyle has evolved since, though. Right? Like, I look back and I remember my 2004 winning run and seeing what those guys are doing now. I was like, whoa, like the progression of slopestyle is just on a whole nother level. I can't even relate to it. Like, I just watched the last Crankworks and I couldn't even name like half the tricks. Yeah. It's so technical now. It's crazy. It's cool though. It's cool to see where the sport of slopestyle has gone, but it's hard to follow now because it's progressed so much.
Yeah, absolutely true. Sorry, I changed the topic slightly when you asked me. Yeah.
So I met you in 2004. Prior to that, you were riding for Rocky. Were you the first RedBull mountain bike athlete?
I don't think I was the first mountain bike athlete. There were actually Thomas Frischknecht, you might know from, he's a cross-country racer. He was sponsored by Red Bull at one point in his career. And not too sure, like on the, there were downhillers, I think some here and there. But originally they sponsored me for BMX actually. So in 98, I got my first helmet. And then I already did mountain bike at the time, but it was sort of still, it financed my life.
Were you doing both? You were racing BMX and doing mountain biking?
Yeah, I did both. I started in, like, actually way back. Almost don't want to say it because I feel so old. But in 1990, I did my first photo shoot on a mountain bike.
Crazy.
And at that time, I was already...
was this a hardtail mountain bike? Like, what kind of mountain bike we talking?
Yeah, zero suspension. I think there was like shoes with paddles. We have
toe
straps on. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, insane. Like,
Were you clipped in BMX?
No, never did clipped in the BMX. On the mountain bike I did, but not. I mean, occasionally. On BMX I didn't do that.
So you're racing BMX and you were slowly playing in the mountain bike world.
Yeah, it grew from the 90s. It started to grow, and then in 91, 92, like every year a little bit more, and then I did bigger shoots, and then I was on covers of magazines. But that was still, for me, that was like, oh, nice. But it paid my life and also financed my life to go to BMX races. So
when were you all in mountain biking? What year was that?
That was in 2000.
2000.
2000 was zero BM. Well, ride sometimes a BMX bike, like, go maybe to certain dirt jumps still, but it was like a dirt jump bike and not a race bike anymore. But yeah, in 2000, I joined Rocky Mountain because what actually happened.
And that was a stacked team. Was Simmons and Schley on Rocky before you?
Yeah, they were before me. So what happened is, like, because I always had to look for brands that had both BMX bikes and mountain bikes, it made the selection of brands that you want to ride with.
Rocky made BMX bikes?
No. But before, what I want to say is, like, until 99, I had to look for a brand that does both. So I had Mongoose. 1 year it was like both mountain bikes and BMX. Diamondback for some years, and then GT was the last one, and then they dissolved the team.
What year were you on GT?
98 and 99.
Dude, so you were teammates with my favorite BMX racer of all time, Gary Ellis, aka the Lumberjack.
Yeah, the Lumberjack.
That's sick.
Yeah,
that's so rad.
And you know what? I had actually, I wasn't, I was teammates, I wasn't part of the US team, but I did go to the US office and got a box series XXL only. He had that. It was a black coated BMX frame, and I got that. And actually with that frame, I raced better, had my best races. I had my best season with that frame. It was super long.
I remember that bike. It had a hole in the rear dropout, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that went completely through aluminum.
Yeah.
That bike was sweet. I remember seeing Gary Ellis racing that because I don't know if you know, I started racing BMX when I was in 94.
I know we spoke about this.
Yeah,
like,
started at 6 years old.
Yeah.
So you made the transition, fully committed to mountain biking in 2000. You signed with Rocky Mountain. You have RedBull. Were you doing the free riding side of things? Were you racing? Like, what were you doing?
I was doing free ride already before. I raced some 4-cross races. Obviously, as a BMXer, it's an easy task to do well at 4-cross races. But I did actually my first like proper free ride shoot. I talked to Scott Markowitz about it, the photographer that I'm sure you know, and shot with. And I was shooting with Scott when I was still on GT in the Dolomites. And there was another guy, a French rider, Lionel Sikira, and he was on a downhill bike. I was on a 4-inch, maybe 5-inch bike. It was not a downhill bike, but still, yeah, it was free riding then. And then when I stopped BMX, I could be like, I went through the magazine, I saw Richie, Tippy, and Wade in the magazines. I'm like, dude, those guys do exactly what I'm doing. I should talk to Rocky Mountain. And that's exactly what I did.
And they were doing that just over here in North America.
Well, they did it actually. Well, they mainly in North America, but actually they did. Right? They went to Europe as well. We already met in '99, but it was sort of like, hey, what's up? And like, cool dudes. But I was still so focused on BMX racing, and I would go only to mountain bike events to either ride shows or to race 4-cross, or I would do photo shoots. Video really only started with them.
Crazy. I feel like a lot of the mountain bikers today, or the best mountain bikers today, I think their background comes from BMX. I think the baddest dudes on mountain bikes, their background is BMX. Like, look at Lopes. Like, that dude was so deep in the BMX racing side of things and became one of the greatest to do it on the mountain bike, right?
Yeah. In the history of the sport, definitely. Today it's a little bit different because you already have young guys going directly on a mountain bike.
Right.
So I don't know if Emil actually rode BMX.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't apply today's riding, but I feel like in the early days of like SlopeStyle or even racing, like, I mean, my background was BMX, right? Like, that's why I was able to do those tail whips and flips and all those tech tricks, because I was doing that on a BMX bike before I was doing it on a mountain bike, and I think that helped so much in my slope career.
Yeah.
And Bearclaw, same way, right? Darren, he came out of the scene nowhere from being one of the baddest dudes on the BMX bikes, bringing that style over to mountain biking. So
Yeah.
I think that was a huge thing back in the day. But you're right. Like today, like I don't think that's necessarily the situation, but I think it still helps. So I think you do have a little bit of BMX background. It helps with your bike skills and on the mountain bike.
Well, it's definitely super hard to do the same tricks, the same riding on a BMX that you may do on the mountain bike, because BMX you need more like finesse, or the feeling is like, for example, for a manual, it's difficult because the bike is way more agile. It's totally different, I find.
So 2000, you're all in mountain biking. You're representing Rocky Mountain. You got Red Bull. You got a few other brands supporting you. You're out filming. How long did that last until your injury?
Yeah, it was 2000, 2001, and 2002. Really, just those 3 years were, let's say, the peak years. Of course, the 10 years before I already did mountain biking, but not with that same intensity.
Not at that level.
Yeah.
And then 2002, you sustained a spinal cord injury. Like what happened that day?
Well, I was in Sun Peaks, and I was shooting for Crank 5, we did some shots together, and there was Johnny Waddell with me. Not sure if you remember Johnny.
Yeah, he used to ride for Santa Cruz, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
Santa Cruz and Red Bull as well.
Okay, yep.
And I knew Johnny already from the RedBull Ride, which was one big mountain free ride event that was started at the same time than Rampage did. Then Dave Watson was supposed to be there. He was supposed to come like a day or 2 days later, and Aaron Peters was the fourth rider, and
bunch of OGs there.
Yeah, it was a bunch of.
I recognize a lot of those names.
Yeah, and being honest, it was already kind of a procedure to actually come to that shoot, because at the time communication was more difficult. So I would communicate usually from Richie's phone at home, and I would never reach Bjorn Enger, and Bjorn Enger wouldn't reach me. I was out and I was coaching at Whistler Bike Park with Vanderham and Wade and Richie, and I was actually Gully was one of the kids at the time. He
Crazy.
was 14 years old.
Damn.
And then we were shooting a Rocky catalog, and it was pretty busy. I'm not sure. No, it wasn't Crankworks. It was Joyride Festival. That was the event before Crankworks.
Before it was named Crankworks.
Yeah, that was on at the same time. So we had a little dirt jump session. And anyways, in my head, I was almost already like gone back, because I had so much on the go back in Europe, like schedule with this shoot and that shoot and that shoot and so on. But then eventually Bjorn Enger actually reached me, and he's like, dude, we have now the perfect location. It's in Sun Peaks. We can do whatever we want. Can you come to the shoot? I'm like, okay. Well, if I can change my flight, I will do it. But it was like high season, summer season. Sometimes it was hard to change flights, but it worked out. And I went there. And it was a weird morning, and it was also a weird time, because in that time, a bunch of riders get injured. Robbie Burden, I think at the time, had like something broken. Maybe Joe Schwartz.
And
maybe,
why were you guys all there? Were you guys all filming a segment?
For a segment for Crank 5.
Okay.
Because
they built a course. They had it all dialed in. You guys flew in, ready to crush it and stack some clips.
Yeah. Well, they haven't built yet everything. It was like that was a goal to get everything built. But I arrive, and suddenly, like, it was like, well, looks like we have to actually go somewhere else and shoot in Williams Lake or somewhere else in BC, because they're not getting the permit to do the building that they want to do. And the truck was already packed to leave That's what Bjorn told us. Pack the truck up. I do one more meeting, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But he did one more meeting, and that was Monday or Tuesday morning. And then he's like, oh, got the thumbs up, green light. Let's go. We do this here. And that was the day that I had my injury, actually. So, so what we did, we went to 2 different locations. One was supposed to be the ultimate SlopeStyle course. At the time, SlopeStyle was something that, wasn't existing.
Yeah, like what really. When you say that was supposed to be like the SlopeStyle course, like
free ride course, like
do we have wood features, big doubles, step ups,
couple features with logs and jumps, but it was because it was like a how do you call that when they built a slope and they
graded it.
They graded the trees. They were just chopped trees, and it was like it looked pretty wild, but it was like, okay, here's going to be a ski slope in the winter, and it wasn't a finished ski slope. So there they wanted to build that, but they also had this snowboard half pipe, which was of course dirt in the summer, and we had some features planned there to be built, and actually Aaron Peters was in the digger and building it with another guy. Actually, other guy was probably in the digger, and Aaron was helping. Not too sure. So while Aaron was doing that, Johnny and I went up the mountain with Bjorn Enga to do some shooting already, and that was the first shots. It was, nothing too crazy, just fast lines down the hill, and no crazy jumps or anything. But then we got the call that already the first jumps are ready at the half pipe. This was end of the day.
So before that, you were riding all day, getting some shots at another location. You get the phone call, yo, half pipe is ready to get sent.
Actually, I have to rewind just a few hours earlier because this is kind of funky. I was going, we were going up the mountain in a chairlift, and I'm sitting with Johnny and Bjorn in the chairlift. Beautiful day everywhere, the mountains. It was my first time in Sun Peaks, like Rocky Mountains, beautiful, and blue sky. And I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful in the wheelchair. In a chairlift.
Whoa.
This is what I said. Like, this was and the other guys. I
just got the chills.
And the other guys. Yeah, I still get sometimes the chills. And the other guys were like, "Oh, not in the wheelchair." And I'm, and it was like I meant in the chairlift, but because I'm German, and I'm not raised with English 100%. So right. None of my parents spoke English to me. So it's sometimes you mix up words, and anyways, and it was maybe my inner voice, and probably on that day I should have been like, okay, you know what, guys, I leave my bike, I take a breather, and I'm gonna
tap out
and tap out, maybe just for the day, or
see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, something like that.
That's so hard to do, though. When you're in that position, the cameras are on, the light's good, the jumps are good.
Yeah,
it's hard to say no.
Yeah, of course. And I was at the time, I was hungry. I wanted to do more. I wanted to do, and I was always, to be honest, which wasn't a great, the great quality of mine, like, or how do you say, like, it wasn't smart of me to always wanting to do a stunt first. And with Richie, Wade, as well as Tippy, like most of the times I would guinea pig the stunts.
But that's like clout. Like you get respect doing that, so I get that. Like I get like when you're the guinea pig and you do it, like everyone like applauds you, because that's the scariest part about hitting these biggest jumps, is being the first one to do so. Yeah. It's easy seeing someone do it at first, because then you can kind of understand the speed and what to do. But like to be the guinea pig, that's the outsiders don't understand how how scary it is to guinea pig some of these lines.
Yeah, true. But with Wade and especially Wade and Richie, we were very similar rider in some way, especially Richie, but also Wade on bigger jumps. Wade did some gnarly steep lines often, or technical stuff that I would maybe have more problems on. But in general, when it's a bigger send, like, we would take together the time, look at it and be like, okay, let's do this. You think it's doable? And we
Right.
would take some in runs, or we would step away from it. It happened as well.
Right.
It might have happened, you know. But in this case, I was with Johnny, and I knew Johnny just from Red Bull Ride. He podiumed there, super good rider, and
Super talented.
yeah, and he was a top 10 downhiller.
Badass racer.
Yeah, exactly. So he had a bike completely different setup than me. My suspension was super hard and stiff, and his was like soft and plush, and yeah, and
His bike was all spec
was
racer
a
year,
V10
and
or
yours was
something.
all free
Yeah.
ride,
Yeah,
probably
exactly.
stiff suspension,
Yeah.
ready
Yeah.
to get hucked.
Yeah. And I wanted to go first. And I didn't do even a speed check run. I went, I said to Johnny, what do you think? Like 1 or 2 pedal strokes maybe? So, oh yeah, I would do at least 2 or 3, or, you know, because yeah, he has a different pop because of his suspension
His bike
setup.
setup, yeah.
I did only one eventually because it was down a hill. So it was like a downhill in run and then a takeoff outside of the half pipe. On the top of the half pipe was a 5 feet tall takeoff, not very high, but high enough to get actually boosted out. And you had to jump into the center or the middle of the half pipe into a landing, but the landing was only 10 feet high, so
Wasn't much landing.
no, there
Not at
wasn't
all.
that.
Not for that big of a gap.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a 35 to 40 foot gap, and
To only a 10-foot transition.
and it was a transfer, right? Like, so because I had to do transfer to the left down, so the
Okay.
drop was maybe just 10 feet, but maybe more from the actual lip, and then you get boosted anyways a little bit, and I just passed the landing. I passed it not only from the distance, but also I didn't 100% get the transfer, so I let go of my bike.
You bailed.
Which wasn't
Bailed midair.
which wasn't very smart, because that's what you usually do when you come up short. You jump off the bike, but because my body was not 100% already at the time, I had a bruised wrist from I mean, a little bit bruised, and ankles were not 100%, neck wasn't 100%. Like, there were like little areas that were all not 100%. So it kind of linked up, like, okay, well, if I stay on the bike, it might be like so much impact, because from 20 feet up in the air, like landing to almost flat, like, because the slope of a half pipe is not completely flat, but it is pretty flat, and it's rock hard ground. It was super hard ground. So I landed on my feet first from that level, and broke my right heel and my first lumbar vertebrae. And I immediately knew I was it was something really bad.
Did you know right away?
Well, I had no connection to my legs. I had no connection. I had no feeling. I was like actually screaming so loud. Johnny said that afterwards at some point, like years later. He's like, "You're screaming so hard."
What was going through your mind when you couldn't feel your legs or move your legs after you hit the ground? Like, we as athletes, we always hit the ground, but not getting up after a slam like that. But like, what was going through your mind?
It was horrible. I mean, it was horrible because I knew something really bad happened, and I don't know, like, how that's gonna turn out. I had no idea, and I'm laying there still, like I was super fit, I would say. I had like strong upper body, I had strong legs, everything, and there I am, uh, not strong at all, having to wait for. Thank God the Johnny was there, and he was able to get a radio out of the digger, um, the caterpillar. He got a radio, called the patrols, or the, how you call them, mountain guards, and they came up. I actually went quite. It was quite a bumpy road. They put me on a stretcher on the back of that, and then into an ambulance at the bottom of the mountain.
And then did they operate on you right away?
No, they didn't. They drove me first to Kamloops Hospital, and then at that time they didn't have like the right
Protocol to what to
anything.
do with the spinal cord injury.
I think they didn't even have an MRI. They had like, oh yeah, we took X-rays. Oh, it's broken spine, really bad. Like the doctor there was like, this is really bad. This is gonna change your life. And he was actually in quite a dick.
And you're like, yo, this is the last thing I want to hear.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Like, don't be telling me this right now, buddy.
Yeah.
Like,
so I stayed one night there, and then I got transferred to Vancouver by plane, and then got surgery after 48 hours, pretty much after the.
So 2 days with a broken spine, all that inflammation happening. And they didn't operate until 2 days later while you got transferred to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. July 23rd is when the accident happened, and July 25th was when I had surgery.
And
6 hours.
And then you posted up in Vancouver for a few months?
No, I stayed only 2.5 to 3 weeks, and then got transferred on. Like I stayed on a stretcher, but on a plane back to Germany.
You got a private plane back to Germany?
It wasn't a private plane. No. It was a passenger plane.
Like it wasn't like a medical plane?
It wasn't. There was a doctor flying with me. So because I had some sort of insurance that would allow a doctor to come over from Germany, and then he would stay like 1 or 2 nights and then fly back with me. And so it was like the doctor and maybe another person. I'm not too sure. But we flew back, and then I got at the airport right away, picked up to go to outside of Munich, like 100K outside. And then I needed again surgery there.
Oh, you got 2 operations. So when you went back to Germany, then they operated. What did they do?
Because and I was already like fairly in good, good shape, or I was already going to the gym and doing, different exercise. I wanted to push already for my rehab, and I would, roll around outside, and then, but they did I think a CT scan, or MRI, and they saw that the bone pushed still
in the spinal cord.
I had metal over 6 vertebrae in my back, so they cut me right open like a big zipper on my back.
Filleted your spine.
Yeah, and I had deep muscles. My muscles were super deep, so they had problems actually to reach the bones. But they didn't take out the vertebrae. The vertebrae was pushing against the spinal cord, even though they put metal in there. The bone was still pushing against the spinal cord. So
after the first operation.
Yeah.
So
for
they
4 weeks basically.
Damn.
Yeah. Like 3.
So you go home, weeks. You get a second operation. Did they have to remove the hardware to release that pressure on the spinal cord?
No, they didn't remove the hardware at the time. They went through my rib cage. Mm-hmm. They had to,
Same.
through. You had that as well?
I did, yeah.
Oh,
dude, if you look at my side, I have the nastiest scar from it. Yeah, they had to go through yeah.
I have some scars here, but they're very little.
Dude, my side scar is way gnarlier than the one down my spine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll show it to you after this.
Yeah. Yeah. They put in a cage. Like first they went in, they took out the bone, they put a cage in, titanium cage, and then fixed it on the on T12 and L2, fixed it with a side plate, and the hardware in the back is out. I mean, that's 6 vertebrae. I mean, that I would be stiff as hell. So that was taken out.
So you'd have no more metal back
Well,
there?
only that cage and the side plate.
Okay.
So
I still have all my hardware back there, and there's times that I'm like, do I get this shit taken out? Because I do suffer a lot of back pain because of that metal. But dude, last thing I want is a neurosurgeon cutting near that spinal cord again.
I know.
So, dude, you're back in Germany, and reality kind of sets in. This is your new life. Like, what were you thinking when you got home? Like, did you have like any idea what was next? Like,
Well, I mean, I was first three months in hospital, or 3.5. In total, it was 4 months actually, including the time in BC. I had no idea first. Like, I just wanted to get out of the chair and do as much rehab I can do. And I was positive, to be honest. Like, I didn't have, like, I had, of course, here and there a roller coaster and the downtime, which was very much in the beginning, because I always asked myself, why me? Because I thought, like, I was like one of the, nicer persons. Like, I would see somebody in chair and feel bad for them, or, in general, I would say, like, really good person. That, like, karma wise, I would say that shouldn't be happening to me, but it's not about that. So I made my own theory why maybe things happen how they happen. But
so you went straight to grinding. You went focusing on PT. Had the vision of you're gonna get better. You're gonna stand up. You're gonna crush what this injury has to offer. And you spent how long in your PT? Like, did you do it for every day for a year straight? Did you have good clinics in Germany to kind of guide you? Because the game has changed so much since you got hurt, right? Like, now there's so much new like technology with like exoskeleton, which I saw you using not too long ago, and stem cells and all this stuff. Like, back then, I feel like there was like hardly any guidance whatsoever when it came to spinal cord injuries.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I tried lots of different things, of course, and it, and I have to say, I mean, I guess it didn't help that I had that pressure on the spinal cord for 4 weeks with a bone. Like, I mean,
So
that,
crazy to hear
like,
that.
if
I had no
usually,
idea, dude, about that.
yeah, not
That's
many
wild.
people know, and that, I'm sure if that pressure was removed within the first few hours, or at least within 12 hours, I think it would have a different.
I think your outcome would have been different.
Yeah, maybe. And I was not able to move a thing until the day I left hospital. Like, when I left hospital after 4 months, I could suddenly move my left leg just a little bit. Like, I could go like, yeah, like about like half an inch. Like, I could move it in.
So your
And
AD was firing. You had
little
internal
bit.
movement.
My hip flexor or AD. Yeah. And but I tried. I went first, like, acupuncture. I did like this Chinese medicine with needles and electricity in the back and this and that, and but then I had like a therapist, and that was in total maybe like 4 years about I was working with him, or between 3 and 4. He was amazing, and he definitely made some improvement on my side, but it also plateaued after some time, and especially on the right side we didn't get too far. Like, he worked with electromagnetic impulse. Like, he had this machine that he developed with a company. They gave him all the resources, and he could give an impulse in my head, in my my toes
It
or
would
my feet would
no
wriggle.
way. It would trigger it all the way down to your lower extremities.
Yeah,
That's wild.
yeah, that's so rad. And he actually worked at a later time. He worked with Usain Bolt as well, and then like lots of like high end athletes. But he didn't care about that. Actually, he only cared about doing the most challenging things that where normal doctors say it's impossible, and make it possible. But yeah, he was great, but he was also very, very difficult to actually have appointments. And to be honest, I also had to start working because I mean, the first work I did was little work for Bike Magazine as a freelance journalist. Then I started with the events, doing like Big D's premieres.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah.
When did you just start Resolution? When did that become a reality?
Well, it started somehow with, I would say, a year before I started Resolution, or almost a year, I did Ride to the Lake. Do you remember Ride to the Lake?
I was never a part of that event.
Well, it was
But
only one time. It was in 2004 because...
That was in Germany, right?
Wait, you won Crankworks in 2004, right? The first
04.
one.
Yeah, 04, yep.
Yeah, it's so weird that you actually weren't able to come over for that because it was in 2004 and Cowan was there.
I think Straight won
Cedric.
that. Right? Did Straight won that event?
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
remember that because it was in
Yeah.
the
McCall's.
urban, it was in the
Yes.
city. Yeah.
Yeah. And that I did together with a friend of mine at the time that we met. Like he contacted me to actually do the New World Disorder premieres. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course, would love to. I know Big D and know Freeride, and let's do it. And then he had that location where he knew the mayor, and he had the original idea. He was the one that was like, let's bring the sport to the city, and this awesome terrain. And so we did it together because I had brands, athletes, and media all sort of like in the network. It was
Right.
not so hard for me, and so we were a good team in that way. And then after that, because I communicated lots out, everybody was always thinking that it was mainly me. I mean, I did a big part of it, but we did it together. And I got contacted by a shitload of people to do events around Europe. And I'm like, oh shit, how am I pulling that off? Like, first they want a little presentation and this and that. And I didn't have that background.
You're like, yo, I'm just a mountain biker that likes to ride. I don't know the business side of things. I don't know how to host an event or invite all these people or even get permits or all the logistics that go into these events.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of moving
things
parts,
were
dude.
no problem. Like we ran that event, like the invitations and the media stuff and so on. That wasn't so much of a problem, and even the sponsorship. But to make a presentation or something like that was like, shit, like didn't really work out so well, or wasn't my thing. But so I knew I have to find somebody to partner up and create Resolution. Well, at the time I had no idea of the name, but and then I met Anne that and she was a friend, just a good friend, because I always had this circle of people at my house, like 30 people on a Monday. We used to call it Magic Monday, and I got sort of like
The whole crew would come over to your spot.
Yeah, like kind of like cool creative people. It was like a creative and different. We would watch Matchstick and NWD movies and so on, and it was like really a good vibe all around. And then I met people that like Anne, and we started Resolution in 2005.
2005.
So in May 2005. So just
Damn.
turned 18 years.
Wow, congrats on that. So Resolution was born in 2005. Did you ever think that agency would be where it is today? I mean, because you have done so much for the sport of mountain biking, from putting on the biggest events to managing the biggest mountain bike athletes in the world, such as Danny McCaskill. Like, dude, you did so much cool shit after your injury. Like, you probably have a bigger impact. No, you do have a bigger impact now, what you've done for the sport of mountain biking, than I think would have happened if you didn't get hurt, you know? You put a huge impact in my life, dude. I mean, you brought money to the sport, dude. I'm going to be straight honest with you. Like, those Cash Guy days, those Nissan Cash Guy days, that was crazy. I never experienced anything like that, and still today there's nothing like that.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy. That was a crazy time. You hosted 5 massive events around Europe, back to back, with real money. It was the first time that mountain biking free ride saw that type of money.
Well, it was not only free ride; it was pretty much mountain biking. Money, like,
for sure,
pretty much. Yeah,
and
yeah.
And I talk about me getting in the right time.
Yeah.
In free riding, because like I said, there wasn't like that today, and that was so cool. I was so hyped on it. And you know, the riders, there was so much, like, there was a lot of hate towards the events, but there was also a lot of stoked, because obviously this is the first time this has ever happened. A lot of the, you know, diehards were pretty bummed because you can't bring the big mountain riding into the city, which we all know that. But I didn't give a shit, because I was like, I'm 17, 18 years old, and this is an opportunity to kind of like give me a good head start in life if I do well at these events.
Mm-hmm.
And
you did.
I did, dude. I really did. And I remember the craziest thing about these events too is that you paid us in cash. And I just remember like going through the customs with like $70,000 cash in my backpack, and I'm like, this is so crazy. And not to mention, I won a truck. You know, I'm
that
like,
was 06. That was RedBull District Ride. Right.
But that wasn't the same time. But like, I've just felt like I've come across the pond so many different times with the biggest smile in my life because of what you've done. From the Nissan Qashqai days to winning the RedBull District Ride and winning a truck. That was crazy. Like, some of my best moments in my career is because of you, man. What you created in the sport of mountain biking, and you've helped so many along the way. And it's like you have a purpose, like, and whether like it sucks what happened to you, like, the sport of mountain biking is thankful for you, and I am truly blessed that I met you and what you've done, because you changed my life, dude, in so many different ways. And dude, the truck, I gotta tell you, the truck, I still have the truck. When I remember winning that truck, and you're like, listen, the way I have the truck, because remember, you sold it for me. You sold the truck for me, and you wired me the money for the truck because it was going to cost $10,000 to bring into the States. I'm like, Tarek, I don't want to deal with that. Like, don't deal with that.
And it was also not a truck of your choice.
No,
like, it was
no.
a good-looking truck, but it was small, like a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder.
It was cool. I had my name on it. It had a Red Bull fridge. Yeah. I did drive it for like 10 feet. Remember, I stacked all the riders in the back, and we tried to like rip down the city, but the security guard like grabbed me by the neck and was like, don't even think about it. But it was probably a good thing. We would have got really rowdy if we did pass the security guards with the truck. But pretty funny, because when you wired the money, I was like, sweet, now I'm going to go get my dream truck. And I went to the local Cadillac dealer, and I bought a brand new Cadillac because of that event. And I still have the truck today. I actually gave it to my nephew, and I told him, like, you can keep it, but one thing, you cannot sell it. It stays in the family. So, a truck that I won essentially from District Ride is still around today. And how long ago was that? That was 2006, 2007. Pretty wild.
Wow.
you've done a lot, dude. You've done a lot for the sport of mountain biking. You've done a lot for me. You've done a lot for athletes. You've done so much cool events, and it's not stopping. Like you're still crushing it. And dude, more importantly, like you've helped me a lot as well with dude, with my injury. Like 2015, that was a wild year for me, right? That was a year that was supposed to be the year for me to like crush Rampage, to kind of, throw the shoes up in there and be like, yo, I did it. Like I did it. And I didn't even tell you this, but like I remember in 2015, I was about to roll up to do my run, and I saw you, and you had some issues going up a hill, and I went right behind you to push you up, and then I went and I dropped in, and then
You pushed me up the hill.
yeah, I remember leaving so you're like where the riders lounge is. You were kind of like stuck in the sand, and I was leaving the bathroom, the porta potties, and I just remember giving you like a little
Push.
gift, little push, and then I drop in, and I was living the same life as you, dude, and a life that I had no idea what went into a spinal cord injury, and I didn't have anybody to really talk to that was in that situation other than you. So, dude, you helped me so much with my injury. I remember calling you or sending you texts like, hey, like, you have to do this. Like, I remember, like, you sent a little poster, get well, Paul. Like, you were a huge guidance for me, man. And I thank you for that, because those few months when you sustain a spinal cord injury, it's a very scary situation to be in. And I was lost, and I was in a dark moment, and to have a friend that was living it and can understand it, and I had someone to talk to, helped a lot. And I'm glad you were there for me during those times, dude.
Very happy that I'm happy that I was able somehow to support you there and help you, and because
dude, I feel like we're way closer now than we ever been.
Yeah.
Like before my injury and stuff, like we were just like, we were friends, but like event promoter, agent, athlete, doing our things. But now we have like a common thing that a lot of people in the world can't relate to unless they lived it, right? Yeah. Like we have a different bond now, and I appreciate our friendship way more now, because we gone through some shit, Rasouli, and we both overcome it, and we both did some badass shit after our injury. And you're still doing badass shit, and I know what you did a couple weeks ago for the first time, and I'm stoked to see what that comes out. And man, just keep inspiring, keep being you, and man, I hope one day there is a cure, man. Do you think there will be a cure one day? I know that you're very tied in with Wings for Life. Like, you think before we're off this planet, there's going to be that magic pill for us?
Well, whether it's a magic pill or whatever treatment or surgery, or I believe that it will be possible. The question is, of course, if it will work for myself, because the difference when you're injured for 20 plus years, or if you have a fresh injury, is of course a big difference. But I mean, I think it's possible. Like, I think it's possible also on my side. That's why I use the exoskeleton too, because if I don't do the walking more like regularly, it's not gonna work when I have an accident. When I try to do this whatever treatment there might be, and then be like, okay, now I start working out and now I start walking. That will be most likely too late. So I'm gonna be walk with the exoskeleton as much as I can. I'm actually have like one smaller goal, just to have there's an exoskeleton that you can use by yourself, like without a therapist, and that's something I want to also do. So we'll see. We'll see.
Did you do the world run this year?
I did world run this year, but in the wheelchair. Yeah, I did that 20, like, what is it? 18 miles or so, like 17 miles, 26K in the chair. I mean, something
That's
at my
impressive.
chair kind of moved like down. Like I saw my foot pad was on two different levels, and I was wondering, why is my chair always moving to the right? Like when I went like on the flat ground, it would push to the right, and that was most likely because the foot pad it got loose, like a bolt got loose.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it was fun. It's great because
Did you do that back in Munich?
I did in Munich. Yeah, there were 12,000.
I went to Miami this year for the world run.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Dude,
I saw that.
That was fun. It was a good turnout.
Yeah.
I did a mile before the catch car caught me.
That's amazing.
I was so fatigued and I was so destroyed, and I was like, it was well worth it. Like 1 mile.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like, yeah, 1 mile is like almost 2 kilometers. Like, yeah, it's
Such
cool.
a rad event.
Yeah.
There was a good turnout.
Yeah.
I hope one day there is that cure, and I hope Wings for Life is the one that discovers that.
Yeah. Because I did it actually with the exoskeleton about 2 years ago.
Oh, you did?
And the catcher car would have had me already after like less than a quarter of a mile. Like it was only 300-400 meters, something like that, because it's pretty slow, and a therapist in the back, and I made, like, it was on a athletic sort of stadium thing, and it was actually pretty cool because it was a soccer stadium, or the old soccer stadium, and I was alone in there.
In Munich?
In Munich, and it was like during COVID, so 21. I wasn't 21. Yeah. Anyways, but I was like, I really had the goal to do 1 kilometer, so I went for the 1 kilometer with the exoskeleton.
That's
it
badass.
took me an hour and a half. Like,
but you did
so
it.
It wasn't within within
Right.
the race. Like,
but you still did
it.
Yeah. That's so rad.
Yeah, it was
That's
cool.
so cool.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, it was good.
Damn.
Yeah, it's really good for your spine, for your even for the neck, for the
blood flow, your bone density,
yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
I was doing that for a while because I was posted up at Craig Hospital in Colorado, so they would always put me in the exoskeleton, and I would do that like at least 2 hours a day.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of good rehab centers here in the States for spinal cord injuries. Mm-hmm. And Craig is one of the best ones.
Oh.
Never want to go visit that place ever again, but I'm very blessed that I was able to go there for 3 months.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great.
Are you ever going to get married? Is that something?
Oh,
is that something you want to do?
I'm open for it. It's not like something that I'm not like into, but it needs to be the right one. I'm not just getting married because I want to get married. It needs to be somebody that I feel like that's the one I want to stay all my life with, and Yeah,
I get it. I mean, relationships are very complicated. It's hard to find that one. And I feel like every time I see you, you have like a beautiful little bird sitting on your lap. Have you always been like a ladies' man? Like, I feel like you do so well, and every time I see you, you have a beautiful girl sitting on your lap. Like, where do you get your swag from, Rasouli?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe from my dad. I don't know. But honestly, well, let's say it like this. Before I had an accident, I was pretty shy. Like, I was shy. Maybe in the last few years, like when I was like got on the team with Richie and Tippy and Wade, maybe it got a little bit more. Well, I would say I got more confident just with a age. But when I was between 18 and 22, like, I would be definitely shy. And and that changed a little bit. But I'm still, well, not shy, but I don't know. And then, of course, it's easy to sit on my lap because I'm sitting there, and I don't like it so much anymore, but it depends, of course, who it is also.
I can never see you being shy, dude. And the fact that you built more confidence of dating after your injury is, I'm glad you spoke upon that, because it was quite opposite for me. Like, after I sustained a spinal cord injury, like, I became shy because I wasn't like, I don't think I was confident where I was at in life, or where my position was in life. And little did I realize, it is such a good thing to talk about when you're on dates of like overcoming adversity. And like, every time I go on a date now, it's like they're so in tune of like of what happened to me and how I overcome such a massive situation in life. And I feel like that draws a lot of great conversations when you're on these dates, because it can get kind of boring, right? When you're dating, like, you know, I'm new to the single life, right? And it's like, I can tell like a lot of these girls are probably like, oh, like, where did you go to school, or where are you from, or like, what do you do for work? But when you throw out something like, yo, I sustained a spinal cord injury, that brings a whole new like engagement in the conversation and interest in that person.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally agree. And then, of course, well, with me, it's a little bit more visual because I'm in a chair, and people are sometimes a little bit more open, and I don't mind it, but sometimes it's a little bit almost too much. But I can filter, and I can make a border also and say, okay, hey, it's fine. Like, I'm fine. But it's also funky because sometimes, yeah, they're like, oh, they feel bad for you, or are you okay, or want to help, or whatever, which is nice. And everybody doesn't know how to react and how to handle the situation. But
well, I know one thing, doesn't it hurt your situation? Because like I said, every time I see Rasouli, he has a hot little bird sitting on his lap. So I need guidance from you. I need your swag. I need your guidance, because your boy over here is having some issues with the dating life. So hopefully one day, I'm in Richie's position, right? That's the ultimate goal. But until now, like, I gotta figure out that direction.
yeah, we can work on it together.
Well, we're going to West Hollywood tonight, so Rasouli is going to give me some tips.
You know what? I've been 5 years on, or in a relationship, almost 5 years, and just got out of it. So I'm kind of new back to the game.
Back to the game. You're in the battlefields. You're in the market. I'm gonna end it on this note. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Top 5 free riders to ever do it. Who are they, Rasouli? Top 5. And it could be your opinion. Like, it's top 5 to do it. And Tarek Rasouli's book.
When you say free riders, you want to include SlopeStyle or exclude SlopeStyle?
That's up to you. That's up to you.
Well, one is easy. That's Brandon. That's, of course, easy. Like, he makes it look easy, and he's been absolutely killing it. I know him since he's 14.
He might be the GOAT in free riding.
He is. Well, he is. Yeah, for sure.
Not only that, I think he might be the best male two-wheel athlete on this world. Like, if you think about it, like, if there was like an event that you had to race, you had to do freestyle, you had to go and ride BMX street, park, dirt jump, no one can compete against Semenuk in all those disciplines.
Yeah.
He's the best all-around rider to ever do it on a bike.
Yeah. It's definitely definitely no
So
discussion
for
on
you
that.
to say Seminuk, not surprised. Okay, so
Yeah.
you got Seminuk on that list.
And then it gets sort of tight, like, because again, like, do you include slope style? Do you not include slope style? And also, yeah, of all times, you know, like, I was very much a part of your area when you started, and because you started exactly at the same time when we started the events, like, pretty much, and so, like, you as well as Andreo would be for me in those top 5, but then, like,
Bro, you don't have to say me because you're on my podcast.
well, I know, but it's you
But
backwards twice.
it is very humbling
Like,
for here to
no,
say that.
but like, if you include slope style, then you know, you lay, how do you say, you build the foundation for those guys, and so did probably Martin Söderström as well. Like, Emil Johansson, like, he's a top rider now, and he wouldn't be there probably without a Martin or without a Brennan or without you. Like, it's like that inspiration that's
The
like,
generations prior kind of
yeah,
helped
built the path.
built the path and kind of put it to the level where it's at today.
Yeah,
You're saying.
built a foundation, and at the time it was definitely a little bit easier to relate because it was a 360 of a drop, or it was a backflip over a jump.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's so technical
I can't even relate to
it's
it.
hard for people to relate.
Mm-hmm.
Rampage is different because at Rampage you still, like, yeah, the most extreme now is a flip whip maybe, or a tail whip off a big drop, what Brandon's just shown, or but it's way different. Plus, it's like the most sickest and gnarliest terrain out there. Yeah. So
It's a tough one.
it's a tough one.
It's a super
to
tough
use,
one.
like, the top 5 free riders.
Should we just say top 3? Or
You
can we do 5? Can we do 5? I think 5 sounds right?
Yeah, like,
5 is good because it can go in from all
Zinc,
different eras.
If I include Rampage, definitely, like, and free riders is Rampage, like,
Yeah.
Zinc, definitely Zinc. The stuff that he's done, I mean, especially in a couple of years, like the Oakley Sander 3 drop 1 year and the flip drop another year. The flip drop was so absolutely mind blowing. It was just insane how big it was, and, like,
I was there.
tiny.
I was terrified. I remember
I
that.
was there. I was there too. Yeah,
That was nuts.
it was so insane.
Such a savage.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it because also landing seemed like you're landing on a skinny, actually, or on the North Shore. And you know what? Just mentioning what I mentioned, North Shore, I would put in Wade, actually.
Simmons, OG.
Yeah, because
He created that sport.
Again, he won the first Rampage. He built a foundation before you guys were around.
Absolutely.
Like, and that, made freeride where it is, today with Rampage. And, now it's definitely, there's freeride in general as more Rampage and whatever bigger, there's not really so many big mountain events. There's big jump events, and there's slopestyle events. I used to really like to put it all in under one roof, which we did with the FMB World Tour. But unfortunately, Big Mountain never had, like, its own, like, there were not too many big mountain events. So it was
There's
like,
only one.
well,
Rampage.
well, there was Chatel Mountain Style, and that
I
was
remember
super
that.
gnarly.
That was cool.
That was pretty cool.
In France.
Yeah, in France.
Yeah.
And actually, if we go way back, then you would include RedBull Ride, because that was sort of big mountain, gnarly as
Was
well.
that the snow one? No.
No, that was Red Bull Ride was when first Rampage was on. There was already there was Red Bull Ride in the same year. Well, it was called actually in the same year it was called, I think, mountain bike the Ultimate Mountain Bike Challenge or something like that. Not ultimate, but it was Mountain Bike Challenge, and then that turned into Red Bull Ride. And the first Red Bull Ride was in 2002. That's where I rode. And then there was 2003 was another one. And Grant Allen, I think, won it one year. And
Dude, you go so way back. I never even
Yeah.
heard of these events.
yeah, I know. They were just
So
before
cool.
you started, but that was like, the first two big ones was Rampage and then that one.
Damn. So what's your top 5 then?
So
Where we
had-
at? We have
so Brandon,
Seminuk. You have Zinc in there.
I had Zing. I had Andreo.
Andreo.
Yeah, I think it's I gotta get like Emil, gotta put Emil in there. Some like he's of course SlopeStyle, but he just tied
Yeah.
with Seminuk the overall Crankworks wins, like number of Crankworks wins. He had that in probably a shorter time than Seminuk. Of course, there's more events now, but yeah, and then Wade and you, I would put.
Hey,
Like,
honored to be on that list of
Yeah.
Tarek Rasouli, the OG. I mean, I'll take it.
Well,
I'm
you know
putting
what?
that on my I'm putting that on my
there's-
resume.
Between 04 and 08, like, SlopeStyle, you owned it, and then you moved over to Big Mountain. It took a little bit adjustment time, but I remember like
Yeah.
in your accident year, you were like sending it big time.
I was riding good, man. I was riding good.
Oh yeah.
I don't miss it though.
Well, you know what?
don't
At
miss
some point you grow, and also it's like a different focus in life, and it's all, I don't, to be honest, I don't miss it. Like, I mean, the thing is like you still ride, even though, you're on an e-bike, but you're on a mountain bike and you can go jumping, which is pretty cool. Like,
Yeah, no,
you
I'm-
ride trails, it's like insane. So
Where I'm at on the bike that's all I need to be. If
Yeah.
it fills my joy, it was something that I kind of did, like that. I feel like every time I had to jump on that bike, I had to feel like I had to progress. But now it's like, no, this is like being
bit more
blessed
chill.
to be able to be able to do it, dude. Because I know where I stand with it, and I know how blessed and lucky I am to be able to still continue pedaling a bike.
yeah.
But Rasouli, you're the man. Thank you for coming on. Couldn't ask for a better first guest than Tarek Rasouli. Now we're going to go to West Hollywood, and we're going to have a great dinner and maybe get into a little trouble. Who knows? Thanks for coming on, amigo.
Thank you, Paul, having me. So honored and stoked
Thanks, dude.
to hang out.
Fired up, man. It's good catching up. Hopefully we continue doing more of these. Maybe the next district ride, we're bringing the crew, bringing the set, and we get some good ones with the rest of the crew.
Of course,
That's
we
the
can do a
vision,
part
man.
2.
I don't even know what I'm doing with this stuff, but yeah, this is it, man. This is I don't know if it's the new chapter, but it's a chapter that I want to dabble into and kind of spread the knowledge of what goes into mountain biking, and even on the back end side of things, from putting on the events and managing athletes to injuries. And yeah, man, thanks for coming on and start to hang, and can't wait for Big D's new film to drop to watch Tarek do his thing.
Me too.
Hell yeah. Right on,
All
bud.
right. Thanks.
Let's wrap.